Hi everyone, how are you? Well, today live, I believe everyone knows this with Marco Kutscher. We did just a little bit of trial a little bit earlier today. Everything should be fine, it's working. I'm gonna send him the message inviting him to join us. Hold on. And then we should restart really soon. There we go. Nope. Here it is. Just give him a little bit of time to join in and there we go. He's already on. There we go. Hey.
Hello.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for joining us. I know it was a lot to ask and it was not that easy, but I'm really happy to have you with me.
Yeah, I made it finally.
that's the goal, eh? That's the main important thing. Well, thank you very much for accepting the invitation. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Yes,
and well, I believe the first question is always, where do we begin? So how, when, and where did you start writing?
Actually, many years ago, as a little child, with my parents, they started writing in a writing school as a hobby, and they took myself and my brother into the writing club, and we were, at that time when they took lessons, we were playing with ponies. Then later we started with vaulting.
With vaulting?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
At that time, they didn't have this nice suits or shirts what they are using today. So for us as two boys, mainly in a group with a lot of girls, it was also at that time quite interesting.
I can imagine. Do you think it's important to try different sports on equestrian sports?
Absolutely, I believe in that. I started from the beginning with ponies and vaulting, and then all the lessons in the riding school. Beside that, I was also quite active in doing all other sports. Especially I like playing with any kind of balls. It doesn't matter, basketball or volleyball, tennis, football. I tried everything. At the time also in school, we had the chance to also try everything, and I believe that for sure it wasn't bad at all to do all of this kind of sports.
Very good. And when did exactly you migrate to show jumping from the vaulting?
I did this vaulting only maybe half a year or 1 year, and then it went on with the ponies. Like everything was at that time playing, just to get in contact with the horses, and then later my heart was always for the show jumping. Okay. I have an older brother. He was a little bit more keen than I was, and my parents always thought that I might become a dressage rider because
really?
I was always a little bit of chicken as a child. My brother, he had much more power than I had, but always I liked the show jumping, and then was also a good decision not becoming a dressage rider.
I can attest for that. Did your brothers keep on riding?
Yes, he's doing also something else. He was professional for many years. He lives in Sweden now since more than 10 years now. He has a family, 2 kids. The kids are riding actually quite well. My brother just does it as a hobby now. He has a normal job there, and I'm quite happy for him that he is not doing it as a professional anymore, as it's quite hard. Not everybody has the luck in life than I had.
I can imagine, and we'll talk about it a little bit later on. How long did you keep on ponies?
It was a couple of years, I think 4 or 5 years. And then actually we started quite early with riding bigger horses, as we had ourselves a very good horse, which was not too big. She was just a little bit bigger than 160. And she was like a family horse. My parents also start riding with that one. They bought it as a 3-year-old, and we broke it in ourselves with the help from another girl. So it was, I didn't really do the pony sport like you know it from nowadays. So it's we had some ponies, but early I went on bigger horses.
Very good. I was going to ask if she was a schoolmaster, but clearly not. She was probably younger horse, but
when I took her over, it was a schoolmaster for me, because then she was already older, and she knew everything. She was a perfect horse for 120, 130, and yeah, she was a really nice one, and it was good to give confidence and safety and a little bit experience in the ring.
Very good. And how was for you your early ages in the sport? I mean, like as a competitive rider, did you do a lot of nations? Did you do international shows while growing up, or did that just appear once you became a professional?
No, not really. In the time when I was still at school, I went already every holiday. I went to a dealing stable where we also at that time bought most of our horses we had, and every free time I had, I liked to go there and ride there, see a little bit with the trading. That was always also things I really liked. And there in that stable, they were not only dealing with horses. He did everything around, especially the dealing I really liked. And I was going there all the time and trying to get new ideas, new impressions. And at that time I was still in school, and then I asked my parents if I can become a professional, which was not so easy to get this decision done, as my parents had another idea what I should do. So, but luckily I could made it, and then I started also working in that stable when I was by end of 16, and from there on, more or less, I was a professional. But I was never like in junior times. I was never in a Nations Cup team or European Championships or whatever. I started my professional career as a getting 17-year-old boy.
Very good. It's well, I believe for most of people from Europe, it's easy to imagine. But here in Brazil, Germany is such a fantastic country in the show jumping and all the equestrian world. How can you describe how was the German sport back then, the equestrian world? Because we all have Ludger, we have you, we have Marcus Henning, all these fantastic, gigantic names. Charlotte Dujardin. No, Charlotte Dujardin is not German, is she? No, she's not. No. It doesn't sound German. But anyway, we have plenty of.
But Charlotte Dujardin is Dressage. So if you name a German Dressage rider, it's Isabel Wert.
That's the one. Sorry, that's the one. Sorry, my bad. But anyway, I mean, like, there's so many good riders coming from such a small country, and so many good horses. What is the secret? What do you believe there is in Germany that makes everything so special?
Yeah, first of all, I think it's a breeding. It's quite professional the way they are doing it. It goes back many years, and then I think the way of teaching people to learn how to ride a horse in a good way in all these riding schools at that time. When I was young, the basics and the standard was quite well. So most of the people got a very good education, how to work or how to grow up with a horse. And then, yeah, we have many farmers, many people are breeding horses. So the riders sometimes comes out of these farmer or breeding families. So there's a good chance to produce good riders. But during the years, in many other countries, we have very good riders as well.
No, of course, that's for sure. But it is amazing how many good riders and, of course, horses Germany has produced over the years.
Yes.
And there is something about the look. There is a very specific way to ride on I would say German style, but
yeah,
if you know what I mean, it's.
I know what you mean. Yeah, but that comes from the basic. It's and then if you have, for example, we always had some really good riders in our country, and young people are looking up to these riders. They try to learn from them, and so one comes to the other. But we also have in Germany different ways of riding a horse. It's not everybody does the same thing. I have my how can I say, philosophy, how to work a horse, how to ride, or ways of riding I like. But that doesn't mean that I don't like other kind of ridings from other countries, for example. So this is quite impressive in our sport. You never learn enough. Every day is something new. Every day a new challenge. Working with the horse together, and also when I'm at the show, I also look at other riders, trying to see how they prepare the horses in the warm up, how they work at their horses in the morning. How they do through, or how they go through the ring. It's always something what I really like to watch, and I did this already as a little boy. At that time, there was a lot in our German television, show jumping, and as many as I could see, I watched everything. And at that time, Frank Slotak, for example, was very successful, and I loved the way he was riding. And then Ludger came. And we had so many good riders, and I always watched them in television. And after a few years, I was part of them. So for me, it was quite an impressive career.
Well, absolutely fantastic. I usually put this question down below the line, but as you pointed out, point two, maybe three, or I don't know how many ones, riders that today you look and try to learn something from.
There are many. There are many. First of all, I have to say I'm quite German. I really like some German riders, not only because I'm friend with them or I learned from them. For example, many years together with Ludger, he made my career more or less. So I'm always still in close contact with him, and we are also good friends. But there's, for example, Daniel Deusser, which I really like, the way he is riding. Christian Ahlmann, who has a different style, or Markus Ening, for example, who is riding in a totally different way. But in the end, these guys are unbelievably precise and doing a fantastic job. But I also always liked Rodrigo see him riding through the ring, or John Whittaker. So there are many, many riders. For sure, I forgot a few, which I really like to see when they ride.
Very good. Well, then you said that you were 17-year-old, and then you start working at a dealing stable. Mm-hmm. What happened from there, so that you started on the 5 stars? What was the gap, and what did actually happen between this time that suddenly it's suddenly for us, not suddenly for you, but that you got the chance to be on a 5-star shows and showing horses? And how did you end up pairing up with Ludger? Sorry.
With Ludger. Yeah, actually it started everything with Ludger. I did a few years in the stealing stable, which really helped me a lot, because I rode so many horses, different horses every day. Horses came in, out, selling, buying, trying horses, go to shows with a lot of horses every weekend. So I got a lot of experience in that years where I was at this place in Bad Bentheim. The company is called Heckmann. And I was about 5 years there. From there, almost I went, like 1 or 2 years later, I got the chance to work for Ludger. And from there on, it was going everything very quick. For myself, I always dreamed about it, to become one day such a professional or a rider who is competing on that level. But I never believed in it, that it will one day work out. But as soon as I got the chance to work for Ludger, everything came quite quick, and that was for me, the time when everything started on the higher level.
Very good. Well, I think last week, I'm not even sure with the dates now. This whole pandemic has made my whole mind go crazy. But a couple of days ago, I made an interview with Ludger, and he described you of one of the best connections with the horse that he's ever seen. He said that you have a way to connect and to make it like one, that is absolutely amazing. How was working with him, and how was Ludger as a boss?
First of all, it's very nice to hear that from Ludger. I know that we both of each other have a good respect when what we are doing, but I don't see myself like this. So it's nice to hear it from other people, but I think we have nowadays so many outstanding riders all over the world, which has a lot of feeling for the horses, because that's what it is about in the end. You have to find a good connection to each horse. Everybody has, or every rider has his own way how to get there. But I learned a lot, most of the things from Ludger. I had already quite a lot of experience in the ring, but not on that level. And it was super impressive to see the way how he was working with the horses to find the right mix between working a horse and also give him a few days off, for example, have the feeling when it is enough or when the horse needs a little break. At that time, Ludger, when I started for him, he had so many top Grand Prix horses, was almost winning or be under the first three in the Grand Prix every weekend. He was so successful many, many years. And that was also my luck that I got in that time the chance to ride horses, older horses. For example, one of my first Nations Cups I rode, I could ride it with PS Priamos, which was 2 years before going the World Equestrian Games in Rome, ending up fifth, when I remember right. Yeah, he was fifth in the end. And to learn from these horses together with Ludger was just impressive. And as I said, we have a friendship relation still, and I think this describes everything.
Fantastic. Can you remember and describe to us your first major win?
My first major win, yes, I remember quite well. It was the German Championship in 2003. That was my first, bigger win. It was a national championship, which is quite difficult in Germany. In that year, I was quite lucky that there were not all of the top jockeys with their best horses there, because there was some other shows going on, and some of the riders saved their best horses. But anyway, I became first and third with at that time Montenda and Control. And that was my first really big win, which I can remember.
Very good. Well, a year after that, you went to Athens, 2004, yes, with Montenda, and you finished up fourth. And then with Kian O'Connor dropping out, you went and got a bronze medal.
Yes.
How was the experience?
It was amazing.
Was that your first Olympics? I think it was, right?
Yeah,
Good.
Sure. It was my first Olympics. It was that time. The German team was really successful. We could win many Nations Cups. At that time, it was always when we were second. It was already, to say it now in a nice way, it was a disaster. So winning was the goal, and it worked out really well. We won a lot of Nations Cup in that year, and I was most of the times I could be part of it. And then we went to the Olympics. We won the team in the beginning, and then later we lost it, but we still were third in the team. And I was fourth individual. I was super happy when I came out. I had a time fault, and I remember exactly Ludger. He was almost not screaming, but he was almost, being quite rough to me and say, "Oh, what are you doing? You had a time fault, and you could save time there and there." And I thought, my God, I'm fourth, no? So it's not bad. And if it's not working now, I go to the next Olympics, and then it will work there. So to say it, a little bit, But at that time, it was just impressive. Then later I got the bronze medal, which was a special situation for me. But anyway, the feeling, what I had when we won the gold medal at that time, nobody can take it away, even if I don't have the gold medal anymore. But the feeling was just to win with the team, and the time we spent together there in Athens was outstanding.
Fantastic. Can you? I'm going to ask a little bit about the horses, and of course, Montender has just been spoken of. Can you tell us a little bit about him? What's the story behind it?
It's quite a family story, because I mentioned my brother Frank already, and he was riding the horse before we got him. We got him when he was 7, and he rode the horse 5 and 6-year-old. He worked at that time for a Dutch breeder. He was living quite close to us, as Riesenbeck, Lutger's home yard, is like 45 minutes away from the Dutch border. And my brother rode the horse. He was jumping already very good. Everybody knew the horse in our area. And we could find a solution with the owner at that time, Mr. Fischedijk, to get the horse into our stable. And then Lutger rode him 1 or 2 shows. And he had, so, like I just mentioned, so many horses, to not having time to present younger ones at the show. So then I got the chance to ride him. And yeah, it was a super story for all of us.
Very good. Well, I'm trying to keep it simple because, of course, I was checking on the FEI list, and it sounds like you rode about 90 horses on FEI classes, at least from 2010 on. I'm not sure how many horses you've ridden before because it's not on the list, but I got up to 88 names, so it's quite good. I would ask you to pick, I think, 3. One of them might be the horse of your lifetime, the most important horse of your career. Second one, we could go, I'm using the money maker, the one that was always on the prize. And the third horse would be the one that got away, the one that for any reason it's not with you anymore, or it didn't develop as much as you'd like and has gone on.
Yeah. Okay. So we start with the 3 horses. Like I said, I was quite lucky so far in my life. And I had a couple of outstanding horses. First of all, I would like to mention Montender, because with him I won most of my medals I have. The year after the Olympics, we became double European champion, individual and team. So for sure, Montender. Then I would like to say Konrad Obolensky, which also was an outstanding horse. From young horse on, and we got him when he was 4 years old. There's a long story behind Konrad Obolensky, as not everything was going as I expected, but at least he could become European champion in the team in Madrid 2011, and he was going out of the sport quite early. As the owner at that time wanted to have him back in the Ukraine and just become a breeding stallion. And he is nowadays one of the most successful breeding stallions we have in our sport.
Absolutely.
So for the third, I would like to mention Cash. Cash is also, I can also answer the second question. He was a money maker.
I'm trying to find his video. It's not this one.
Yeah,
that might be one. That's it.
Cash. Cash was a fantastic horse. We got him when he was 7, and yeah, he was going out of the sport 17 years old, and he was competitive in any Grand Prix, and also possible to win. He won a few. He won speed classes. He won 6-bar. He was doing everything, and he was one of my most successful horses I had in my career.
And the one that got away?
I have to think of. Luckily, there were not so many.
Very good.
Which I lost. So far, I always found a good solution with owners that I could keep the horses, but for sure there was also a few which I still would like to ride, but at the moment I don't. Nothing comes up in my mind really. Maybe later it will come back, but at the moment not.
It's all right. I was looking through the website, trying to do a bit of research before talking to you, because it makes easier when I know what I'm talking about. And there was this call on one of the news saying that you make Longines Masters history. Did you win the Grand Slam?
Yes, I won Los Angeles, and there was the challenge that you could win 3 or 2 of 3, and I won 2 of them, Los Angeles and Hong Kong, and that was with Van Gogh. And that was also a special, I think nobody so far did it, and what I just read in the news, also the series will not go on anymore. So that makes me also quite proud to win this 2 important Grand Prix and win this bonus together with Van Gogh at that time. That was also something very special.
Fantastic. Well, you got something along with big stallions for the breeding style. I'm not sure if they look to you to present them or if they just you happen to be lucky or good enough to have them. But you rode Contato Bolensky. I've seen, I think, a video of Numero Uno.
Yes.
There is also Katoki.
Yes.
So 3, at least that's the three ones that I could like instantly remember. They are doing really good things now on the breeding side. Why do you think were they as special as a horse as they are as a stallion?
Okay, first of all, I think you have to see some of the stallions. I had many stallions in my life because I don't know, people give stallions or gave the stallions mainly to us. I don't know why it was like this. Maybe because of Montenda, he was a stallion, and then one comes to the other. Then I got Contato Bolensky. So we always had quite good relationships to stallion owners. For example, a few times I got horses from Family Horn. You just mentioned Numero Uno, and I got also Van Gogh. But not every stallion I had was also very successful in breeding. But most of them were so talented and so good themselves that it's also quite close that they give it to their offspring.
Offsprings, yes.
But to have all these special, or to have all these special stallions in my life makes me also quite proud because, for example, with Contato Bolensky, it's also always my name together with him because I rode him in the sport. And many people who have a cornet offspring call me and ask me if I may ride them. So it's for me, it's overall it's a very good thing. And Katoki was more ridden with my colleague Philipp Weishaupt. I just rode him one time in Rio de Janeiro at the final in that year because at that time there was, I don't remember the reason exactly, but I think it was because of a championship that we wanted to save the other horse for that. So I could ride him. I was lucky to have all these stallions.
Very good. Just a second. Yep. Well, talking about the stallions, and of course, if I'm not mistaken, you rode quite a few offsprings of the stallions that you used to ride. Like, I believe you have ridden a couple of Contato Bolensky's offsprings.
Yes.
How much alike they are from the parents? Like, we all, like, listen, Brazil, if we see the offspring of Contato Bolensky, they kind of look similar. They have this small head, really, I would say a lot of blood, or a lot of, it's not blood the word for it, but character.
Yeah, character is the right word. Absolutely.
But what do you feel of the offspring?
Contato Bolensky himself, he also had a strong character, which makes it sometimes not so easy for me as a rider to handle it. Especially when he was young, he was quite nervous or had a lot of blood at the show. At home he was lazy, but at the show he was quite sharp, and that didn't make it all the time easy for me as a rider. Through the years we found a good agreement, both of us, but he was never a horse like, to say, for example, to compare to Cash, where you know exactly you can ride the distances like this, or you come in the ring and you know how he is. Contato was always different. Sometimes he was super nice, sometimes not. You always had to find a solution to go through the ring, and you never you had a plan while walking the course, but it could always change easily through whatever circumstances came up. So that makes my life sometimes not very easy, but he was just such a tremendous jumper. He could handle or came out of situations which other horses could not do. And this he also gives to his offsprings. And some of them are very nice to ride, easy. Also, we have different types. For example, I rode Cornet's Cristallo, which was a very successful jumper for me as well. I could win a few good Grand Prix with him. He was very unbelievable fast. Cornet, to compare him, was not so easy in the jump-off. He also won a few jump-offs, but when it comes to the last speed, then I had no chance against the others. But Cornet's Cristallo, he was super competitive. He had some other special things, but most of the Cornet offsprings, they can jump. This is the major thing.
Fantastic. What do you believe was the hardest time or the hardest moment of your career so far?
Hong Kong.
Oh.
That was through the years I got it out of my head, but that was for sure super disappointing at that time. It was with Konrad Obolensky. He was quite young. He was only 9 years old. The circumstances around the Olympics, in the end, afterwards, we were more clever than before. Our horses went or got shipped over to Hong Kong 6 weeks before the Olympics. And that was I think for all our horses was not the best idea to do that. They were such a long time out of competition. And then for Cornet, it was the biggest class in his life, or the biggest challenge. We were just not ready for that. For me, especially, and also I think for most of my colleagues in the team, would have been better if we would go later to the Olympics and then compete. At that time, I think we were all 4 riders competing in the team were under the first 10 in the ranking. And in the end, it was, I mean, everybody knows the result. It was super disappointing for the German team, how we performed. And especially for me, it was very disappointed. As I said in the beginning, I had super nice moments in my career. But when I think about a bad one, for sure, it was Hong Kong.
Okay. Well, now there's a little bit of, it's not a tricky question, but I think it's a nice one. If you could put a dream team from whole German history, which would be your team?
Did you say from the German or from the?
Yes, from the German.
The German. Oh, yeah. Super simple. Super simple. Markus Ehning, Christian Ahlmann, Daniel Deusser, and for sure, did you say 3 or 4? I would choose Ludger.
Okay, and you?
Yeah, and me, yeah, but I'm talking about the others. I really, as I'm with all of them, I'm a good friend, and I really have a lot of respect the way they are riding, and they are unbelievable tough guys.
Very good. Well, you just hinted the 3 or 4, and that's of course about the new Olympic rule. We are going to have a little bit of a difference from Tokyo 2021. What do you think of the new system?
I don't like at all. I think our sport is grown up through many years. It's a little bit conservative.
Yep.
Yeah, a little bit. Some rules are a little bit old-fashioned, maybe, but that's what I like in this sport. And to change to 3 riders, where every rider counts, is a thing. For example, for the global tour with the 2 riders. It's for this tour. I think it's absolutely fine. It makes it also special. But for a championship or for a Nations Cup, I still prefer the old rules. And I also think that it will happen only one time.
Okay, fantastic. Well, the next thing that we're about to have a big change in this sport is the new regulation for the hind boots. How do you feel about that?
For sure, I would I would like to keep on going with the hind boots, but I can also understand the FAI to change it. And also for sure I have some horses which needs these hind boots where the jump himself becomes better, and I would have a benefit of that. But on the other hand, if it's for everybody the same, it will also change a little bit, I think, the course building. When you see nowadays the courses, it's getting bigger, wider, the material is getting lighter, the cups, they are almost flat.
Yep.
So also for the course builders, it's super difficult to build a course on top level. And sometimes it's only a little thing which makes it, whether you have 15 or 20 clears or only 5 to 8. And I believe with this new rule, also the riding has to change for some of the colleagues or for myself, whatever. And if it's for everybody the same, I don't have a problem with that.
Very good. Do you think we'll also have a big difference on the speed of the courses?
On the speed?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think the whole course design, the building, time allowed, maybe it will change. We will see. Maybe there's no changing without the boots. After a few times, maybe the horses did some mistakes without the boots. They learn from that, and the quality horses will jump then maybe the same without all these kind of boots. But I believe that we will have a little changing in the course design.
Very good. Marco, of course, you've tried and rode hundreds of horses in your life, if I'm not being anything more than obvious. But what do you look for on a horse when you're trying a horse?
For me, it's always important the way they are moving. I like when the horse has a good style of when the moving is good. Even though I had horses, for example, Cornets Cristallo, he was never a good trotter. He had a funny canter, and I won a lot with him, and he was a successful horse for me. But when I see a horse, to say the perfect horse, I like a good body, I like a good movement. And then for me, important is to sit on a horse and feel, because sometimes when you see the horse from the ground, maybe the jump looks nice, or even it doesn't look nice, but the feeling is good. So for me, it's important to sit on the horse and have a feeling how they are, and mainly the head, the brain of a horse. If you have the feeling the horse is going with you, or the horse is having own ideas, or is a little bit against whatever you are asking for him when you try a horse. So in the end, it's for me quite important to have the feeling on the horse and just don't see it from the ground.
Very good. Well, on the other side of the figure, what do you think is the most important quality on a rider, and which would be your most important feature?
I think it's super important to get the feeling on the horse and then find a good way together. For sure, the horse has to functioning. Everybody has every rider has his different way of riding. Also, what he asks from a horse. For example, me myself, I like for sure a good flat work. But then in the ring, I also have to be flexible, and then don't think about maybe the last control if you don't have it anymore, and go with the horse. And then from there, ring by ring, you get maybe better, or round by round, to produce a good horse. It's not only one way you have to look after. And it's like I said in the beginning, it's every day, it's a challenge. Every day, something new. Also in your training, you have to ask yourself, if everything is good what you are doing, or maybe if you have to find another way with this horse you might have a problem with. So I think it's every day in our life as a show jumper or as a rider, working with an animal. It's just a fantastic goal to do every day a little bit better.
Very good. Well, you just sliced on the next theme, that's flat work. Of course, asking that to a German guy, it's redundant, but what's the importance of the flat work on the show jumping horse?
Yeah, there's also, everyone has a different idea, but in my case, or also maybe you heard it from Ludger, because we are more or less saying the same. I think the horse has somehow functioning in the ring. To say it easy, also with Ludger's words, gas and brake needs to work. And the steering, the turning, it sounds quite simple, but it's sometimes it's really difficult. And this you try to improve or to teach in the flat work. And sometimes you have to do it a little bit more intensive with a horse, and some horses don't really like that. So you have to feel what the horse needs. But this is in the end what it's all about. And every rider has his own style and way to get there.
Very good. Well, you said, of course, Hong Kong was a tough job. But what do you believe or was the hardest course you jumped in your career?
Oh, the hardest course I jumped in my career must be in Calgary.
Everyone says that. Everyone says Calgary is the one to beat.
Yeah. It is like this because it's a special place, especially for us as Europeans. We don't have these massive arenas anymore, or just a few in Europe. For the Canadians or for the Americans or South American, they are coming also in the summertime to Calgary. The horses are used to it. It's a totally different way of riding there, similar to Aachen. But for us, it's only once a year. Would be also nice to have maybe in the springtime a couple of weeks, like a tour there. This would maybe then change a bit. But I always find it very hard. If you have a horse which really likes this kind of place like Calgary, it's super. If you have a horse which is a little bit shy, then it's a hard week. And most of the classes, especially the Sunday, the Grand Prix, was more or less all the time I was competing there. A very, very hard course.
Very good. And what is your favorite show?
Oh, there are a few. For example, Sao Paulo, I really liked. On this grass arena. Was a special show. The horses, for me, when I look back, all of them they jumped fantastic there. As the footing, the grass was something special, and they all felt really good and safe on that ground. That was a nice show to stay in your country. I also liked the show in Rio. Was also a special one. Mexico City is a special show. The atmosphere there, the people, the way they built the courses, the fences, the flowers, was just, yeah, it's a very nice show. I like Estoril, for example, in Portugal. And for sure, some of our German shows, Aachen is well known all over the world. It's about atmosphere with the people. I think it's the show in the year. No else shows in the world have this amount of spectators and public. So Aachen is for a German for sure a must.
Very good. Well, we just said Brazil, and then people start texting me saying to invite you to come back. So feel free to come back to Brazil anytime you want. People are asking if you could give a clinic and things like that. I'm pretty sure you don't have the time, but if you ever think about or consider about coming to Brazil to give a clinic, please let us know. It would be an honor to have you with us.
Yeah, I will do.
Well, I'm not sure if you have in mind, but how many shows do you do a year, or how many weeks you stay at home?
Now I'm not doing so many shows anymore. I don't have that amount of horses to go to a show every weekend. Also, I have to say, I'm getting a little bit older, and I did this many years, every weekend, almost, let's say, in best times, I did around 42 to 45 shows a year. But now I'm also quite happy with the situation I have at the moment. Okay, this times
not at the moment, yeah, of course.
But I also enjoyed that. For me myself in this Corona times, doesn't change so much, I think, for many horse people, because we are living in the nature. We are out with our horses together here. I live close to the barn, so just that we could not go to a show. In the daily consequences, we had our life like it was normal, so we can be very happy with that. And also in my family around, nobody got so far infected, so everything was positive. But nowadays, I think I do like 30 shows a year.
Okay. Thinking on that, what is your routine? What's your daily routine? But more than that, what's your week routine with your top horses? Do you jump them every week, every 2 weeks? Thinking about top horse, what's the daily routine for them? And of course, a weekly routine.
Yeah, it's quite simple. Nowadays, I normally just ride in the morning. I start at 8 and ride between 4 and 5 horses in the morning. And that's nowadays all what the amount of horses I ride or I work. And in the afternoon, then I look either after our rider, or if people are coming for training, or if there's other stuff to do. I'm also like dealing with horse trucks. This is a little bit my hobby. And I'm doing that to have also something else beside riding.
Very good.
And with my horses, I do quite a lot of small jumps when they are in form and in the show rhythm. Then I don't do so much. Then maybe just a couple of gymnastic fences, in and outs, maybe a line of some oxers. But I don't train like a big or hard course at home then. If they have to get fit and get into training, then I jump them, let's say, 2 to 3 times a week.
Okay.
But for me, it's more about gymnastic, and I'm not jumping that often a course at home.
And they go out every day, once, twice, 3 times?
Sorry, I forgot about answering the question. 3 times a day.
3 times?
Yeah. One time they get ridden. Yep. And also we have a nice forest and hills behind our barn. So once a week we are trying to take the horses out in the forest. Then they come out either in the walker or on the treadmill, and the 3rd time in the paddock, if the weather is fine. It's not always in Germany, but if it's at the moment, it's super. And if the weather is good, they are coming out in the paddock every day.
Very, very good. I'm going to have a look now for the questions that people have sent us. Let's see what we got. Okay, Anderson Lima, that's one course designer. You probably know him, but still. He's asking about what's your best warm-up routine for your horses?
Yes, I'm doing almost the same. It's I get on the horse between 15 and 18 horses before I have to jump. And then I always take a little bit time with walking, that everything gets warm, and then I start trotting, cantering. Do it first as easy as possible to just warm up the muscles and everything, and then I start with a few collecting things, and then I start jumping like 8 to 10 horses before I have to go in, and trying, it doesn't work all the time, but trying in between to also have a break for the horses. That's why I start so early. Other riders, other things they are doing, some of the riders, they start late, and then they also start late with jumping, but then they do quite a lot in that short time. So everybody has a little bit his own system, but I like to sit on the horse quite early.
Okay, very good. Caio Costa is asking about a horse that you sold to Pedro Venice.
Yeah. Blackman's Lord Petsy Junior. Yeah.
Lord Petsy.
Yeah.
Okay.
He bought it end of last year, and I have to say it's a perfect match, I think. He's also a stallion. It's also quite strong character, this horse. Once you get to know him and you know how to handle, then it's fine. But he has also a special character, this one. And with Pedro, it's working fantastic, and it's a perfect match, which we couldn't find it or find it better. it's not so easy to sell these kind of horses, stallions. For example, not everybody likes to ride stallions, but in this case, I have to say, and I saw some rounds from the Sunshine Tour, and he was also quite successful there. And I think we will see more of them in the future as soon as the shows are starting again.
Very good. I was there for the 3-star, I think, when he got second out of.
Yeah, he got second. Yeah.
Very, very good.
Yeah.
Let me see. All-weather footing or natural grass field?
Always a good grass field. If the footing on the grass ring is good, there's nothing better for a horse, and the horses also feel good. The jumping is much better. I prefer, if possible, a good grass arena.
Very good. Let me see. Do you have regular training of the riders or just clinics?
I didn't really understand.
If you have regular riders that you train or just clinics?
No. I have worked together with a rider who is working for us, for my partner Eva Bitter and me. His name is Christopher Klesener. He's a very talented rider. He works for us already 2.5 years now, and we are very happy with him and having such a good rider in our team, which makes life easier for everyone. And I'm mostly training him, and I'm not giving so many clinics, as it's in the normal time quite difficult when you have to train your own horses during the week and being at shows in the weekend and then give clinics. At the moment, I don't like doing that. Maybe there comes a time later when I'm not doing so many shows anymore to give more clinics, but at the moment I prefer to concentrate on our business and on our barn.
Fantastic. Of course, we talked about a few of the stallions that you rode before, but someone is asking about Spartacus.
Oh yeah, Spartacus. Yeah. That was I didn't have him for such a long time, but he was by Staccato,
Yep.
A horse which is still in our stable. Eva Bitter rode him and is owned by the Hanoverian breeding stud, but the horse is still with us. He's 27 years old now.
Oh God.
So it's a close story sometimes. And Spartacus was a big horse, very nice to ride, and he was. I had some really good rounds with him, and he was a very, how can I say, easy horse. Even if he was big, but he was super nice to ride and scopy, careful. It was a pleasure to also ride this horse.
Very good. Well, people are asking a lot, of course, about Kornet Obolensky. And one of the girls is asking here, what do you think the mare should be like to breed good enough with Kornet Obolensky?
I cannot really answer this question because I'm not so much into breeding. I ride the products, but we are not.
I like the riding, not the breeding.
And I also myself was never really interested in the breeding, so I cannot really say which kind of mother line or which kind of mares he needs. What is for sure, he did good horses with all kind of mares, but I cannot mention any special one. Absolutely,
no problem. No, that's not the one. Sorry, sometimes I mispress it. Do you see different? That's a good question. Do you see a big difference between mare, stallion, and geldings? And if you have a favorite?
I prefer, as I rode so many stallions, I prefer mares and geldings.
Okay.
Yeah, it's quite simple. With everything, it's easier with them. With the stallions, some of them are for sure also super uncomplicated, but in the end, most of them are a little bit men and strong and
strong-minded,
want to present themselves. And it starts with in the stable with the boxes, then the transportation on the truck. Then you come to a show. Most of them getting off the truck, they're all excited. So it's for sure it's a bit more handicapped when you have a stallion. But if you have a stallion on your side, it's also on the hand and sure that he can do special things for you. But even if I rode many stallions, I had my biggest success with them. I like
peace and quiet. Very good. Well, I think we have 2 more questions because we have like about 5 minutes. So first of all, it's what is your next goal? What is your next dream to achieve?
Oh, to be honest, most of my dreams came true in my life.
That's fantastic. Yeah, congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you. Sport-wise, for sure, if I get the chance to have to be in a team again or ride Nations Cups or at least be successful on the higher level, this would be for me already very good, as nowadays it's getting so difficult to get good horses, to keep them, because we are also living from selling horses. This is part of our business. So there's, 2 hearts are beating. One is the business and one is the sport. To do both at the same time without having a good sponsor behind you or good owners, which I luckily have, but it's not easy. So I'm happy with the situation, I have to say. I achieved much more in my life than I ever expected as a young boy. If something more is coming, it would be fantastic. If not, I'm anyway happy. And the other thing is for sure to stay healthy as long as I can, also people around me.
Very good. We have about 3.5 minutes. So if it goes off, I will start a new live just so we say the proper farewells and goodbyes and all of that. Okay?
Yeah. Okay.
But
okay.
the last question, I think it's what is your advice for the younger riders coming up that want to have a successful career such as yourself?
Yeah, I think it's not plannable. Like I said in the beginning, I mean, it's not only about luck. I had a lot of luck. I was many times in the right moment at the right place, but it's also all about, you have to make a lot of effort into it. To work with an animal, it's 7 days, 24 hours, for sure. They are also sleeping, but you think all the time about how to get better, and it's a lot of work behind it. Nothing comes from himself, you have to, for sure, you have to have talent, but with this you can also, even without talent, you can achieve a lot in our sport, as it's all about work.
Okay, well, Marco, thank you very, very much for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I really, really enjoyed it. Hope you did too.
Yes, it was my first thing I did like this, so it was also something new for me.
Easy breezy and beautiful. It's fun. Yeah. All right, thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure. Thank you everyone that watched it. Tomorrow, it's Thursday, right? Yeah. Tomorrow, yes. I will have an interview with Sameh Eldahan at 3 o'clock here in Brazil, 8 o'clock Central European time. So I hope to see you all back tomorrow. And I hope to see you soon, Marco, once the shows are back on.
Yeah, thank you very much to everyone, and take care and stay sound.
You too. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Good night.
Okay. Bye.